Welcome to the Two Dudes Talk Movies podcast. I'm Luke.
I'm Griffin.
And we are back for our Black History Month tradition here on the podcast. I wanted to start off talking about Moonlight that I believe came out in 2016.
2016,
Yeah.
2017, yeah.
And I remember it because during the time of awards season, there was a mix-up where La La Land got an award, I think Best Picture, over Moonlight. And I remember that exchange. I remember nothing about what this movie is, what it's about, anything. So going into it, I was completely blind. And then I was talking with my girlfriend at the time about it, and she said, well, what's it about? And I was like, I could not tell you. So we both watched the trailer, and when it got done, she was like, yeah, I still have no idea what this movie's about. And I said, fair, but the A24 label is attached, which means it's either going to be the best thing you've ever seen, or it's going to be confusing and weird, and there will be no in between.
I feel like that's usually the A24 entourage. It's like either the most peak thing you've ever seen, or it's just like hella confusing.
Yeah. So I was like, you know what?
Not to name a certain thing.
I'm going to take my common A24 mindset and just say, turn it on and find out later. So I turned it on, and we have found out later. To get started with our general thoughts, Griffin, you want to get us rolling?
Yeah, so the movie splits its plot among three parts. You have Chiron. The first part starts out with him as a young boy. The second part's him as like a teenager, and then the third part is him as an adult. Each stage of his life is pretty different from the other, or from the last, I'd say. Mm-hmm. And but yeah, the way I thought it was interesting how they broke it up into like three parts of his life and just kind of how he changed throughout that.
Yeah. Also, is his name Chiron or Chiron? Chiron? Because I have it written as Chiron, but I don't know, because like didn't different characters pronounce it different ways too?
I think so.
So I don't know.
Who knows how it was
I'm just gonna call it Chiron because that's the one that I heard the most in the movie. But anyway,
to keep it consistent, I'll try to do the same.
Yeah. But no, I do agree. I think it's a very simplistic A24 movie. There isn't a lot of, like, there is things going on, right? There is a lot of deeper messaging here, but it's not something as crazy as like Death of a Unicorn or anything like that.
Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Right. You're not being bombarded with it. It's a very straightforward, linear story told in three parts: childhood, teenage years, and then adulthood. Kind of his adult life, right? And I do like the pacing of that. I have complaints with the third part because I've never liked a movie. You do too?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll get into that later.
I think we kind of generally have the same opinion, just what I've seen on Letterboxd from our ratings. But
I have not seen what your Letterboxd rating is, so we'll find that out here live on the podcast. But before we get into any of that, I do want to go over just some of the quick things that I do like. The acting is phenomenal in this, right? You've got Mahershala Ali as Juan, Naomi Harris as Paula, Janelle Monáe as Teresa. Alex Hibbert and Ashton Sanders play Little, who's Chiron's youngest version. Yeah. And then you get to Chiron in the middle. And then I believe he's just called Black at the very end in the final piece.
I think he was called that in his teenage years by
he was. Because, Kevin's the bully. Is Kevin the bully?
A friend.
There's one that's the bully.
Frenemy, bully.
Kevin.
A little bit hard. Yeah, Kevin. Just call him Kevin.
Yeah, but so, speaking of Kevin, he's in here too. Jaden Piner and Gerald Jerome play the two versions of those.
Yeah.
And there's a reason that I'm not mentioning the actors for the third installment of these characters. I will circle around back to this later. Okay. But no, I love the performance all around. You've got a nice blend of familiar faces from Ali and Harris and Monáe with some lesser known names that I haven't heard of before with the people that play the main characters in this. So that's always nice to see. But I really like how authentic they give their performances, right?
Definitely.
The emotion feels very real. It doesn't feel forced, and the emotions that you feel watching them and seeing how their emotions convey through the acting between the sadness, the happiness, little as there is of that, and then just the straight depression of it all too is very good.
it's like they feel like real people living their lives. It's not like it almost doesn't feel like actors in a movie. It's just like, I mean, obviously it's not like shot documentary style, but it's like the performances are like convincing enough to where it's like you can see them as like maybe people you'd meet or something.
Yeah, I feel like the first scene does a really good job of this, where
For sure.
Juan goes up and meets with, I can't remember the character's name, but he meets with the drug dealer in the street, and it doesn't feel like watching a movie scene. It just feels like, yeah, you're on the street in the West Coast, I think.
Yeah, West Coast.
Yeah, you're on the street in the West Coast just watching an interaction. It doesn't feel forced, and I
Right.
really like that. I feel like a lot of times movies try a little too hard to be authentic to where it doesn't come off across as authentic.
Right. I didn't feel that way with Moonlight. I thought it was like pretty well balanced in that aspect.
For sure. And I do like the themes in this, right? Both with sexuality and being different in general. All of that stuff ties in nicely with the way the plot goes and with the pacing. I don't feel like anything's bogged down too much by it to where it's in your face with it. It doesn't feel like it's trying to say something but can't fully commit to it either. It has the nice, perfect amount of what it needs to be.
Yeah.
Those are the main highlights of everything. I do want to talk a little bit about cinematography here in a second, but
Yes.
anything else that you want to?
I was gonna move kind of into cinematography.
Let's do it.
I thought it was really great. Just like even with just like that opening shot, it's like you're following the drug dealer and Juan, and it's just kind of like spinning around. Like the camera's like spinning around them. Like it's very kind of chaotic, and then it's just like, and then the rest of the movie doesn't really do that, but like it's just like that opening scene. It's like, I guess it's meant to be like, oh, these are the characters, and like just trying to get you immersed in their headspace.
Yeah, I was also wrong. I literally just scrolled on my notes. They're in Miami, not the West Coast.
It's my it's mine.
So my bad. But yeah, the cinematography too. It doesn't really do a lot. It's very simple.
It's simple,
But
yeah.
it's a lot of, I noticed, kind of, you're either stationary or handheld stationary, where either it's just up on tripod, I'd assume, or something, and like this is a fixed position we can turn if need be, or there's times where like someone's like physically holding it in space because that's a little wobble on there. And I don't really think it needs to be anything flashy for this. I kind of like that it's slower and you're just there, right?
Yeah.
I feel like last movie we kind of mentioned it briefly as well, where in First Reformed there are moments where things pick up a little bit with the cinematography, but for the most part, keeping it simple and just limited in the range of motion and stuff keeps you locked in and engaged with the conversations happening.
Yeah, like First Reformed was very fly on the wall, like characters talking, and like that's how the story was told. With Moonlight, it's definitely like there's still like still shots, but there's like a lot more going on to where it feels a bit more like animated.
Yeah, you mentioned fly on the wall. I feel like this movie isn't as fly on the wall. I know that's for First Reformed, and that makes sense in that context. But for this, it's a little more like being a silent observer in the room, not necessarily fly on the wall, because like you're detached a little bit still, like you're on the wall. This is more so I'm sitting right next to the characters at dinner, right?
Like,
I know there's scenes at Juan's table, right, where the camera pans around a different section, or not pans, but cuts to different sections. So it feels like you're just sitting at the table with them rather than on the wall a little further removed.
You're like a ghost or whatever sitting at the table.
Yeah, for sure. But the third chapter, man, I can't vibe with it. But I want to hear what you have to say about it first.
Sure. Yeah, so between... Okay, my issues kind of stem a little bit like kind of like on the in-between. Like Act 2, spoilers, warning. Like Act 2 just like kind of ends like with Chiron just kind of like putting the chair over the bully's head, and then he gets arrested. And then like from there to the beginning of chapter 3, it just kind of like jumps with like outshowing much of what happened or implying what happened in between. Like last you knew he got arrested, and then next moment he's like, now he's a drug dealer, and where is it at? It's not.
It's
in
not
Miami. Florida.
Miami.
It's still Miami.
Okay. Yeah, they're in Miami. Oh wait,
or don't they move?
I think they moved, but I can't remember where. It might still be Florida.
It's still in the South somewhere. But what was my point? The point being, there's just kind of like a lot of empty space between acts 2 and 3 that don't really get like a lot of questions answered.
I think for me, it's not necessarily questions unanswered and space unexplained as much as it is. I feel like a change of pace has occurred, right?
Yeah.
The first part with Little and then the second part with Chiron, I can see the evolution between the two actors, right? And same goes for what's his name, Kevin, where yes, they are two separate actors playing the same character at different points, but the actors look similar enough to each other that I can visibly see how we've evolved into this scenario
to where it's believable that like this person, while different actors, like they've aged and they look generally the same.
Right. I get into an issue when we go from Chiron to Black, where the Black's act feels different. Like it's just tonally different. The actors who's Trevante Rhodes is Black and then Andrea Holland is Kevin feel too different compared to the chapter 1 and 2 variants of themselves. So I can understand that more time has passed in between the two, and like you said, 2 ends with just the chair breaking an arrest, and then 3 gets right to it where the previously skinny kid is now much more muscular and turned to a life of some misdeeds. And I can understand how each act leads him into this, right? Yeah. Where he's pretty shy at the start because of his home life. And then at school, it's not much better. But
he's being bullied and all that.
Yeah, but the moment that he kind of gets the taste of what it's like to have revenge, if that makes sense, with the chair smash, and then he gets arrested, I feel like that jump from there to the third chapter signifies that his character likes more of that, right? But because we see him doing more misdeeds in that third chapter, but there's a level of innocence and not fear, but anxiety and depression, I guess, still behind that. Because whenever Kevin is reintroduced into his life, you get to be back into that Chiron personality,
right,
almost
like his teenage personality.
Yeah.
And like young Chiron Little and like Chiron as a teen, like they're both pretty shy and like not closeted exactly, but like they're very they keep to themselves because they get bullied a lot, and just in general he didn't have a great childhood. And then like as an adult, you can definitely tell like there's been a change. Like I can see how.
Yeah, I don't know. That part, like just acting wise between the two feels disconnected, and then story wise feels disconnected, but it's also just kind of a slow pacing chapter as well compared to 1 and 2. I also feel like
I would slightly disagree on that. One I can agree with. Like the pacing was well paced. I think arguably the first part was the best one, but that's debatable. And then the second part was definitely very like short paced, happened in a much closed period of time, like in a week or something. And then Act 3, it's definitely more like spaced out, I feel. Or
I think spaced out's a good way to explain it, because I also found it hard to figure out that Kevin was the guy that called originally. I thought it was Juan at first, and then
Juan died. And
did I completely miss that? Hold up.
Did you not know Juan died?
Hold up. Wait, hang on. Did I miss? How did I? Wait, no, because last I remember is that in Act 1, they were at dinner, and Chiron left, and then that was the last that we saw of Juan. Was there dialogue somewhere in there that said that he died that I missed?
I think it's more implied that he died because what's her name? Teresa is living alone, and like Juan's just not there at all.
Okay.
So it's assumed, I think, that he died because he was a drug dealer, and that's like a very dangerous activity. He probably got caught up in something and got killed. I think that's implied somewhere. Yeah.
Okay, I definitely missed that, but in my defense, I finished this movie at like 2 a.m. and I was very tired. So very reasonable to stand that I missed that part.
Wait a minute, you didn't know Wanda? Hold up.
My bad, gang. Sorry. But yeah, I couldn't.
Spoilers.
Yeah, I guess. Well, anyway, since I missed that part, I thought it was Wanda calling still. And then after that, and they were kind of like talking, right? And Chiron wasn't fully committed to the conversation yet. I thought it was the bully.
Yeah.
From the second part.
Like the one he got his...
he got his beat. There's no beating around the bush there. He got his beat. But
I'm asking if you thought it was the bully that got his head smashed with the chair.
Yeah, that's the same guy. Yeah, I thought it was that guy that was calling him to like make up for it. And then when they met, he looked completely different. So I didn't think it was him. And then later I find out that it's Kevin, but the actor still looks too different from the Kevin that I just saw.
Yeah.
So there's more of a disconnect here where I can't place it. And then getting to that point where I'm like, yes, this is Kevin. I think that's where I felt like the pacing was too slow to get to that kind of a point.
Yeah, I feel like he goes from looking like a high schooler to like just immediately he looks like he's in his 40s.
Yeah, he looks like almost as if none of the time passed. So
or
all the time passed. Sorry,
I'm like
misspeaking. My bad.
It's 2 a.m. again.
It is.
It's not.
No, it's just like 8:30. I'm just tired. But yeah, I can't fully vibe with the third chapter. It just feels too disconnected. I understand in the narrative structure how the character gets to where they get, or like all the characters get to where they are, but it's just the way that it's executed bothers me, where with the acting and the pacing.
Yeah. And then I was going to kind of rewind back to Act 1, which I think is the best, and I would like to explain why.
All right.
I'll see if you agree. You can tell me your favorite act. 1, 2, or 3. So Act 1's my favorite. It's Chiron as I don't know how old he is exactly. He's very young. He's a child. And like just the actor that played him in that section. What's his name? If you got it.
Yes, I do. It is Alex Hibbert.
Yeah, Alex Hibbert did a fantastic job with Chiron's younger self as Little. I'll just call him Little. And then his mentorship with like how he met Juan, and just like how Juan was kind of like his mentor, and he like taught him a lot of different stuff. Despite Juan being like a drug dealer, that's just kind of like the life that he chose, and now he's more or less kind of stuck with it. But like at the same time, I feel like Juan's trying to not lead Little down that path, and like try to keep him away from that, and like teach him like some life skills like how to swim, and like just to kind of stray him away from like not to follow his path. And like I really liked Juan's character too. I think he was absolutely great. Shame that he had to die and that you had to miss it.
Sorry. I will say I was like fading in and out. I stayed awake through all of it. I think my hearing just like went out at times.
Yeah. But like but yeah, I think like overall Act 1 was just the best, with like the mentorship between Juan and Little, and then just like the performances too in that section too were really good.
Yeah, as much as I love the performances from Act 1, I think Act 2 is probably my favorite. I like the conflict between Chiron and the bully whose name I'm forgetting. But then there's also like moments of alliance with him and Kevin. And there's a little bit of a will they, won't they kind of relationship going on, where there's dreams of Kevin being straight. There's instances where he real life says to Chiron things that would imply that. Yeah. But there's scenes between the two that hint at the opposite as well. So there's a little bit of a bisexual theme going on here as well. But I think it's really the conflict between Chiron and the Kevin later on towards the end of that act that really gets it, because the bully ends up telling Kevin to beat his ass. Yeah. And Kevin listens. So you got to see these two characters get closer together with each other, only to then be forced apart almost.
And like like even during that scene too, Kevin's like, "Hey man, like stay down. I don't want to hit." Like you could tell he did.
Yeah,
not
he
want
didn't want to
hit
do
him.
it. He's telling
like,
him straight up.
"Hey, like stay down. I don't want to hit you again." But Chiron kept getting up, and if I were Chiron, I just would have stayed down. Like I wouldn't care.
I mean, eventually he got to a point where he had to stay
Or,
down
yeah,
because
he had
he
to, and then he
genuinely
got
couldn't get up.
Then
And
got
then,
kicked.
yeah.
And then yeah.
But yeah, I think for me, second act is the best. But do we think we're ready for a deep thought of sorts?
Yes, I might also have one, but I want to see what
all
yours
right.
is first because it might be the same as mine.
Okay. So the final shot of this movie, is that it?
Keep going.
Okay. The final shot of the movie, right? It's, I think, Chiron, not Little, is out in the water and basked in moonlight, and he just kind of turns, looks at the camera, movie ends. What do we think that is?
Okay, that was not quite my question.
All right.
It had to do with the moonlight, but it's not that specifically. So it's like, okay, remind me what it was again. It was like
The moonlight's like hitting him. Chiron's standing in the water. The moonlight's purple on him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he just turns, looks at the camera, and then the movie ends.
Okay, and that's him as his youngest self?
That would be his teenage self.
His teenage self. Okay. It could mean like his teenage years were like the most pivotal of his life, and like that's kind of where he discovered who he really was, and like that was just like the most that was just kind of like the area in his life that like changed him the most, and like where he found himself, who he was, and like that could be it.
Yeah. I definitely think for me it's got to do with self-acceptance. Earlier in the first act, I remember Juan was telling Little about a story that he had with an old lady that kind of explained to him the Moonlight story, right?
Yeah.
And how it kind of illuminated him. And I feel like getting to the end of this movie and seeing the Moonlight hit Chiron signifies to me that he's accepted who he is as a person, right? And I feel like adding that with the context of the scene prior where he rests his head on Kevin shows that the two of them have made up and they're more accepting of each other and themselves.
Yeah.
So then, you know, with the movie mainly following Chiron, we get to that last scene where we're focused on Chiron, and that light represents that acceptance.
Yeah. And like another interpretation of the ending that just kind of popped in my head now, it could be like like that final scene is like I keep saying Kevin, Chiron, kind of like accepting who he is as an adult, and like him being in like his teenage years in that final scene could be him like having like a vision memory kind of thing where it's like he's more accepting of his past now, of like what happened and like how it's shaped him into like who he is today.
Yeah.
That's kind of another interpretation.
I could totally see that being a way to interpret it as well. You mentioned you also had a deep thought. What's racking your brain?
I feel like it's kind of been answered, but it's like, what's the significance of Moonlight in the film? It's like, I kind of had an answer to that where it's like the moon kind of has like different phases, and like we all go through like different phases of our life of like we're a lot different from the person we were in our teenage years versus our childhood versus our like later adulthood. So it's like we kind of like turn like a different phase, and like our life's kind of like a cycle, because like the cycle of a moon.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of my not so deepish thought, but at the same time, it was just kind of a
no, I can see that
question.
because it feels right based on the way that I kind of talked about what I thought that final shot was with the moon, like recognizing him and accepting himself.
Yeah,
it ties in with that moon phase thing that you mentioned, where you're not the same as you was or however many years ago. So that acceptance comes from a specific point in your life where you didn't feel as validated. Now you are, sort of, if that makes sense.
That makes sense.
I have one other question. I didn't write it down, but I was thinking about it as we're talking.
Yeah, sure.
with the whole Oscars mix up on Best Picture, did this deserve it over Moonlight? Or did Moonlight deserve it over La La Land?
So I can't answer that. I haven't seen La La Land.
The best horror movie, and you haven't seen it.
I would probably give that to 500 Days of Summer.
Well, I'll disagree, but that's not for this episode.
Right.
I have, now that I have seen both, I don't know. I do like Moonlight, but I feel like I enjoyed La La Land more. I had less to complain about in La La Land than I did here, which granted wasn't much, but like still, I think
He's never liked a movie.
No, I haven't. I think I would have still given it to La La Land. I see the appeal
To Moonlight.
Yeah, it's just not fully there for me. Speaking of things that aren't fully there, we haven't discussed ratings yet, so do we think
No.
we're ready for that?
Yes, I do need to watch La La Land though. There's a lot I've been meaning to watch.
We got
I
like
just don't get to it.
a 400 plus movie backlog, so don't worry about it. But
La La
Griffin,
Land will come eventually.
what do you
All right.
what do you want to rate Moonlight here?
I'm going to give Moonlight a. Okay, so between all the three acts, the first was my favorite. Little to zero complaints there. Act 2 also pretty good. Act 3 had issues, but overall I think I would give it 4 out of 5. And yeah. So Luke, what would you give it?
I would also give it a 4 out of 5. I disagree with Act 1 being my favorite because I like Act 2 more. But Acts 1 and 2 flow together nicely with the different characters acting, pacing, the conflict in both versions being different. Act 1's more kind of a introspective conflict with the sadness and depression going on.
Right.
Act 2 is more of an outward force with that physical
With the
bullying and all that. And then Act 3 is in its weird little bubble where I understand narratively how Chiron got to where he is as a character, and I can understand how looking back he remembers his past chapters.
Yeah.
But just the acting and the pacing in 3 isn't fully there to vibe with for me. So I think 4 out of 5 is still pretty reasonable. But
Okay, cool.
well, with that being said, I think that's it for this episode of the Two Dudes Talk Movies podcast. I am Luke,
I'm Griffin.
and we will be back next week with another movie for you. Until then, bye.
Bye.